So, continuously, when details were released or leaked to the public about the upcoming film Ballerina, not a lot made me hopeful or made a lot of people hopeful about what we were hearing. The reveal that Ana de Armas would be in the movie, the reveal that Keanu Reeves wouldn't return as John Wick, then the reveal that test footage did not go over well with audiences, then the announcement that the film had been delayed and was being reshot, and then finally that Keanu Reeves was coming back, and that was one of the main reasons for the reshoots, did not spell out a very happy production. And I have to say that in many aspects, particularly the writing and the acting, I feel as if that has come true. This film is far from being one of the best films in this universe, and it is immediately, in my opinion, files under being the worst of the 5 so far. Taking place between John Wick 3 and John Wick, we are introduced to a young ballerina by the name of Eve Macaro. She, as a young woman, is visited upon by military-style men, who we learn are basically paramilitaries for a cult that is attempting to extract her because they believe she is one of them and need to take her home. And in the process of doing so, her father is killed. Winston from the John Wick films visits her after the death of her father and tells her that he can take her to a ballet academy where she can learn to become a ballerina. Through this, she becomes part of the Ruska Roma, the original tribe that John Wick is a part of. As part of the Ruska Roma, she learns to become an assassin as well as a ballerina, and she is sent out on missions until eventually the tribe that killed her father return with an attempt on her life. In doing so, they put themselves in great peril, and she sets out to take them down. I don't feel as if this premise canonically makes sense because of where John Wick is with the Roma in between John Wick 3 and John Wick 4. As I say, they tear his ticket in John Wick 3, and he essentially is gone. He can never return home, as they say in John Wick 3. In John Wick 4, we see that he is outcast and he is sent on a deadly mission to kill someone in order to regain entry to the tribe. However, in this film, he returns and he comes back on their behalf. This doesn't make any sense, and the film just rewrites this, and it rewrites the story of the original John Wick movies in return for giving the audience satisfaction of seeing Keanu Reeves on screen once more. It doesn't make sense, and I honestly don't think that John Wick in this film needs to be there. He doesn't improve the bad things about this film. He just strengthens the best part of the film. And I also have to say, I don't think he strengthens it very much. He's essentially a bit part player in the second hour of this film, when Ana de Armas really comes into her own in this film. The first hour is where all my problems lie pretty much with this film. The second hour, I think, is pretty good overall. And it is that division that presents the main issue of this movie. It does not wed its story elements and its action sequence together very well at all. To start with, I actually think that the first hour of the film introduces some elements that I think are worthwhile, and it just does not develop them in a way that I think is satisfactory to the audience or to the film that the filmmakers are attempting to make. For one, the film introduces this idea that Ana de Armas cannot compete with the men who will attempt to kill her on her journey. She has to cheat and use every advantage that she can to get her own way. This essentially is culminated in one thing and one thing only, which is that when she's in a fight with a man, she will occasionally kick them in the balls to great effect. And whilst this does work, I am sort of confused as to why this is the only element of her femininity that is introduced. It is a trait of her personality and a subplot that I was incredibly intrigued by and was going, I wonder how they're going to do this. Is she going to be a backstabber? Is she going to lie, cheat, steal her way through this movie? No, she just kicks people in the balls. And I almost feel, in a sort of philosophical sense, that this is sort of undermining to her character. She is said to be deeply linked to her femininity, and that is part of what makes her a killer, a good assassin. And yet she doesn't ever really exert any of that. Her identity is essentially ripped from her. She's a ballerina only in the name of the movie and only as a kid. When she becomes an assassin, she essentially loses her identity and just becomes John Wick, and is dressed like him, fights like him, talks like him, has the same humor as him, the same jokes.
I'd like to go hunting. Cool.
There isn't anything actually about Ana de Armas as Eve. There isn't actually anything about Ana de Armas' Eve that is her own. There is no identity here, and I, in many ways, feel as if this film undermines her character by focusing on this element of her femininity, because it does not follow it through to a satisfactory degree, and that is disappointing. There is a worthwhile story here about how do women succeed in this male-dominated industry that is crime, that is assassinations. And it is never brave enough to actually break the mold of John Wick and explore what that means. We are fully aware that she is not John Wick. The action sequences are nowhere near as detailed as anything that Keanu Reeves is able to do in his own films. So why pretend that she is to that level? Show us that she isn't as good as him. She isn't as adept. She's still new to this, and then tell us what that means. Show us how she has to get the upper hand by doing whatever is necessary. Show us that she is willing to break the rules to get ahead in this industry in a way that Keanu Reeves does not have to. And ultimately, the idea of having those two fight towards the conclusion of the movie, in my opinion, is almost deeply disrespectful to both characters. Eve is nowhere near good enough to fight him, and John Wick is far too good of an assassin to let himself be beaten or almost beaten or even placed on the same par as Eve. This completely rewrites their characters and makes them seem as if they're on equal footing, and they're not. There is a very clear master and student relationship here that is essentially wiped out, in my opinion, and it ultimately does not result in any good fight. It is not worth it. In my opinion, the 2-second fight between Ana de Armas and Keanu Reeves is one of the worst in the film, if not the worst, and it doesn't add anything, in my opinion. So ultimately, this idea of she's a feminine assassin does not mean anything outside of what the marketing tells you it means. It is not explored any deeper, and it is really, really disappointing, in my opinion, that we don't get a deeper exploration of what it really means to be a woman in this world. And when I talk about the film does not wed its story elements with its action elements, exactly what I mean is that the story elements that it introduces in the first half are in some cases worthwhile and may be interesting to see, but it completely forgets these in the second hour of its film and just dedicates the second hour to action. It forgets the revenge plot. It forgets the idea that Eve can choose between killing people and protecting people. It forgets all of this stuff and just goes, no, yeah, this is an action movie. Remember, this is an action movie, and just plummets us into an hour of action. And it is enjoyable. It's easily the best hour of the film. But when we reach the ending and she saves a young child, I don't see why she does that. It doesn't in any way feel earned. I don't see this sort of dilemma in her brain where she's torn between, do I want to be a protector? Do I want to be a killer? There's nothing of that. And ultimately, the very ending is left on a cliffhanger where she can be reintroduced for sequels galore, and ultimately means that, yes, she probably is a killer then. So what is this arc of maybe she's a protector? Surely if she was that protector, she would have left this world behind. It's very dicey in my opinion, and not enough of this story is worthwhile in my opinion. It completely forgets the idea that she's on a revenge quest when she's part of the ballet academy, and just reintroduces it with this very tacky attack of a tribe member on her, where we are not given a reason as to why this tribe member attacks her. He just does by crashing his car into her, and she takes him out, discovers that he has the mark on his wrist, and then just goes to town on the cult. It isn't in any way explained why he would just randomly attack her. Throughout her time at the ballet, she isn't researching the cult. She isn't trying to find out what this means. She kind of just forgets about it and becomes an elite level assassin. And yes, it might be that she's become an elite level killer because of her revenge quest, but we are never actually shown that. She is not researching this tribe. She is not going, I need to know consistently on the director of the Ruska Roma's case, when am I going to get more information? When are you going to tell me who this is? There's none of that. And therefore, we are just like, okay, she's forgotten, I guess, and that's just going to be reintroduced at some point, and it is just reintroduced, and it's not reintroduced even in a satisfactory manner. So none of that, in my opinion, is worthwhile. The revenge quest isn't worthwhile. The idea that maybe she should be a protector over a revenge quest isn't worthwhile, in my opinion. So I really don't know who she is. Is she a protector? Is she a killer? Is she just a John Wick clone? None of this is clear. She doesn't have any identity. She is essentially just made into the mold of John Wick and is told, go on, that's good enough. Put on a suit, say cool as a one-liner. That's good enough as your character. And it doesn't work. She's not able to sell, in my opinion, these lines that are given to Keanu Reeves. She's not a good enough actress, unfortunately. Part of that, I believe, is that she just struggles in some cases with her language. English is her second language. I'm not going to judge her for that, but I would then judge if this is the movie that you want to make, if you want to be able to sell those one-liners, why did you cast Ana de Armas? You saw in test screenings, you saw in auditions, she wasn't able to do this. Take her out of it. Protect her. Get someone else. Because she isn't able to sell that. Or change the character. Don't make her a John Wick clone. That brings me on to the other point, which is that Keanu Reeves, why is he in this film? Doesn't do anything, is bland, tasteless. I don't even know if he's acting in this film or is just essentially being shown a piece of paper behind a camera and going, read this, say, hello, I am here to take you back, Eve. And that's basically it. Even in his one action scene where he's taking on other guys in this sort of village area, I don't even believe it is him. One thing that the John Wick films have continuously prided themselves on is the fact that you can see Keanu Reeves. He's doing this. And yet in this film, you can't see his face in the action sequence. So I don't think this is him. And I'm not talking about, it's not a little bit, you can't see half of his face, you can only see the other half. His full face is blocked out. It's black. You cannot see a thing. He's deeply into the shadows. So I'm genuinely questioning, is he even in this? And then you have to question, was it even worth it? When I actually think all of the good moments in the fight sequences are given to Ana de Armas. She actually sells hers very well. Now, don't get me wrong. Clearly, the director is using some shaky cam effects and some quick cuts to protect Ana de Armas when she isn't capable of doing those things. And I think on occasion she probably does have a stunt double, but she's pretty good. The grenade sequence is quite good. The restaurant sequence is quite good. All the use of knives and blades in this film is really good. The roller skates is a brutal sequence. I really, really like a lot of the action in here that she is given, and she performs it really well, and I was pleasantly surprised by someone that I didn't think would be capable of doing this action. That's not me saying she definitely wouldn't have been able to do it, but that's me saying we had never seen that before, and we very rarely now get straight new action heroes. That isn't something that happens very often. Who are the biggest action heroes now? Still probably Daniel Craig, because he's living off of James Bond from 5 years ago. There's Keanu Reeves in these films, and then there's Tom Cruise. All of those actors are above 40, and they have been doing those roles for at least 10 years, if not 30 in the case of Tom Cruise. So it's a pleasant surprise that she's really able to do a lot of this action and that she committed herself to it. And again, I think she's doing a lot of this. She definitely had a stunt double in areas, but you can see her face in a lot of these sequences, and she is good. I really am pleased for her. And again, whilst I don't think that she's particularly good at conveying the dialogue, and a lot of the dialogue is tacky and is quite bland and bad in my opinion, particularly in the earlier sequences, she sells the action very well. And if she plays it right, she probably has another couple action sequels out of this on her hands. In my opinion, the best move forward would be going, dump all the dialogue, don't do that. Let's just make this a straight action movie, and like the John Wick movies where you have a maybe 4 or 5 minute sequence of setting up the next action sequence, and then boom, 20-minute, 25-minute action sequence. Maybe she's able to do that, maybe she's not. I would at least like to see it, because it is pretty good in this, I would say. It's obviously not to the level of a John Wick. I've already said it's not to the level of John Wick in any way, but it's worthwhile. I'm interested to see what she does. I'm always up for what a new feminine action hero looks like. I'm always up for a new action hero in general, but when was the last time we got a new female action hero? That must be 30 years at this point. I can't think of who the last one would be. I think there's a lot of merit to this film. It's just that it's deeply embedded into that second hour of the film, and we almost have to fight for it to get to that second hour, because the first hour there really isn't much going on that I was deeply engrossed in, and what I was engrossed in, it just kind of bins off. The cult aspect isn't really delved into enough, and that would have been a story element that I would have really enjoyed. Why do this cult want her back? What is it that they sort of profess? The leader of the cult, played by Gabriel Byrne, tells us that this cult has been around for 200 years. Why don't we see any more of that? Why do you just set that up and then don't say anything else? Why is it in the ballet academy we see one of Eve's friends up and leaves and we're told, oh, she wasn't good enough, and then that's it, we don't say any more of her. She doesn't reappear. There is no thing about, oh, well, she was killed or whatever. Are they trying to set up a sequel there? Is that going to be a future revenge sort of plot of a second ballerina film? I don't know. But if it is sequel bait, that's going to really piss me off in a sequel, if that is what that is. I really sort of think it sets up a lot and it tries to do a lot with its plot, but it doesn't really ever achieve anything. It doesn't do enough. When you really get down to those action sequences in the second half of the film, there's a lot in here that is really worthwhile, and I'm really, really happy for Ana de Armas in particular, that she has found something that she is able to carry. Sort out the dialogue, maybe give her a better writer, give her more identity, and I think there's a lot here that she can work with in a second film. Do I particularly want a second ballerina? No. I think this should be a self-contained story that should end when the film ends, but I also am well aware that they're never going to stop making John Wick films, because Lionsgate have found a new franchise, something that they've been desperate for, and they're not going to let it go now. So I will take what I can get with it and hope for the best. So with this, what I want out of a sequel: better identity for Ana de Armas, better dialogue, and also better villains. There's no Donnie Yen in this for some reason. There's no Common. There's no one like that. And that's such a mistake, because a big aspect of those 4 John Wick films that sort of holds us over is the idea that if John Wick isn't on screen, there's his enemy who is as convincing and is as cool as Keanu Reeves. And we don't get any of that. It tries to sort of give you a couple cameos of other characters. Gabriel Pine by Norman Reedus is there for about 5 minutes. He's alright. There isn't really anyone else, I guess, other than Keanu Reeves, who I guess plays an anti-hero in this story, in this arc. I really feel as if she struggles partly because she doesn't have a second lead. This film basically entirely rests on her. If she's bad, then the film is bad, and she deserves, if there is a sequel to come, which I think there will be, she deserves a better second lead than what Keanu Reeves gives her. It's a good start. It's a fun romp, is what I would say. I just sort of expect better from the John Wick universe at this point. But I also knew, because the test screens didn't go over well, the fact that there were reshoots and that they had to pay out the arse to get Keanu Reeves in here, I knew that there were going to be some issues with this. So overall, I think this film will be something that I will look back on and go, yeah, it's fun, fondly remembered. I will see it again, and I will be happy with it. Is it to the level of the other John Wick films? No. Overall, am I pretty happy with it? I suppose so. It's got its issues. It seriously needs to work some stuff out before it has its sequel, but there's enough here to work with, in my opinion. So, that's it for today. Thank you for watching.